The HOA president screamed, "Arrest him," as I launched my boat on my own damn lake. There I am, waist deep in icy water at 6 a.m. when Margaret Thornfield storms down my dock like she owns the place. Her perfectly manicured finger inches from my face, shrieking trespasser, while a bewildered deputy fumbles with handcuffs. "Ma'am, this is my property," I say, water dripping from my waders. "Not anymore," she screams. "I'm having you arrested for illegal boat launching." The metal cuffs click around my wrists as my 12-foot aluminum boat bobs innocently beside us. 15 neighbors gather on their decks, phones out filming this insanity. Here's the kicker. 10 minutes later, I owned her precious Marina. Let me back up. My name is Jake Morrison. 3 years ago, I lost my wife Sarah to cancer. We'd bought this lakefront property 15 years back as our retirement dream. 12 pristine acres with private lake, complete water rights, and peace you can't price. Sarah and I spent every morning on that dock with coffee, watching mist rise off the water. After Sarah passed, my daily fishing routine became my lifeline. Me and my German Shepherd Rex would head out at 5 a.m. sharp, and for a few hours, the world made sense again. That little aluminum boat wasn't just transportation. It was the difference between surviving and drowning in grief. Enter Margaret, Maggie, Thornfield, the human equivalent of stepping on a Lego barefoot. 6 months ago, this woman seized the HOA presidency like Napoleon conquering Europe. Picture a razor-sharp 55-year-old who treats her pristine white BMW like a battle tank, always dressed for corporate takeover even at backyard barbecues. Within her first week, violation notices tripled. Christmas lights still up January 2nd, $200 fine. Dog barking during daylight, $150. Garden gnome facing wrong direction, don't even ask. The declaration of war arrived via certified mail on a rainy Tuesday. Official HOA letterhead, Maggie's pretentious signature, and a $500 fine for unauthorized watercraft storage creating visual pollution inconsistent with community aesthetic standards. According to this document, my boat launch area, the same one that existed when I bought the property, now violated some mysterious community lakefront uniformity requirement. My dock was suddenly common HOA property. The attached justification letter reeked of cheap perfume. Individual boat launches create unsightly infrastructure impacting our community's premium market positioning. Mr. Morrison's facility represents significant aesthetic liability requiring immediate remediation. Premium market positioning? We're talking about a 12-foot aluminum fishing boat older than some neighbors' kids. I'd been launching from that exact spot for 15 years. Every homeowner knew my morning routine. Half had used my ramp when there's needed repairs. The hypocrisy burned worst. Her own property featured an imported sand beach and concrete seawall that definitely violated every natural lakefront rule she claimed to protect. I called her that evening, foolishly hoping for reason. "Mrs. Thornfield, Jake Morrison from Lakeshore Drive. There's obviously been some mistake about my dock situation." No mistake whatsoever. Her voice could freeze hell over. The board unanimously determined individual watercraft facilities undermine property values. 30 days to remove everything. "Ma'am, I own the water rights. It's explicitly in my deed. The HOA supersedes individual claims when community welfare is threatened. Don't contact me again." The woman had declared war on a widower's only remaining piece. She had no clue what she'd awakened. 3 days later, I found a notice taped to my door. Emergency HOA board meeting. Thursday, 7 p.m. Community Center. Mandatory attendance. All waterfront property owners. Thursday night, I walked into the community center expecting maybe a dozen people. Instead, 40-plus neighbors packed uncomfortable metal chairs. Maggie positioned herself behind a folding table like the Supreme Court bench, wearing a charcoal business suit. Beside her sat Curtis Thornfield, her lawyer nephew, pale and nervous. "Ladies and gentlemen," Maggie began, "we're here to address a serious threat to our community's property values and legal standing. Mr. Jake Morrison has constructed unauthorized maritime infrastructure encroaching on common HOA property." Curtis unrolled a survey map, completely different from my files. According to their version, my dock extended 15 feet beyond my property line into HOA-controlled waters. Time for my counterpunch. I stood slowly, pulling my original deed and 2009 survey from my jacket. Ma'am, with all respect, I've got paperwork telling a different story. My survey clearly showed water rights extending 200 feet from shoreline, well beyond my dock's modest 30-foot reach. The deed explicitly included all water rights in perpetuity. Curtis examined my documents, his face going pale. He whispered something to Maggie that made her jaw clench. Surveys can be outdated, she said, voice losing confidence. Property boundaries evolve as communities develop. That's when Mrs. Victoria, my 78-year-old neighbor, stood up. Excuse me, but Jake's been using that dock since before this HOA existed. My husband and I watched him build it in 2009. Tom Hendricks called out. Hell, Jake let us use his ramp when the county launch was closed last summer. Maggie's composure cracked. Red blotches appeared above her pearl necklace. Personal favors don't establish legal precedent. Mr. Morrison's continued violation creates insurance liability for the entire community. Here's what's happening, Maggie announced. Mr. Morrison has 30 days to remove his dock or face legal action. Legal fees will be assessed to his property account. War had been officially declared. Maggie doubled down faster than expected. Monday morning, I found Derek Kowalski, Maggie's unemployed son-in-law, standing at my property line wearing a security uniform, clipboard in hand. Sir, I'm conducting lakefront patrol for the HOA, Derek announced. Your dock has been posted as a violation area requiring daily monitoring. Over the next week, Derek showed up every morning at 6 a.m., parking to block my path to the water. But I wasn't sitting around complaining. While Derek played security theater, I spent afternoons at the county recorder's office. That's where I hit pay dirt. Dolores Martinez, the county clerk, pulled me aside Wednesday afternoon. Honey, you might want to look at this, she whispered, sliding a manila folder across the counter. Maggie's election paperwork was invalid. HOA elections required proper 30-day notice to all homeowners via certified mail. Maggie had sent regular mail to only half the community with no return receipts. Her entire authority was illegitimate. Meanwhile, Derek's harassment escalated. He started following me around my property, documenting maintenance activities like I was an environmental criminal. But Maggie's next move caught me off guard. Tuesday morning, I saw her marching to Hendricks Marina with Curtis, Derek, and 2 strangers. 20 minutes later, she emerged clutching a manila folder with a satisfied smirk. Tommy Kowalski from the marina stopped by that afternoon, nervous as a cat in a thunderstorm. Jake, she just offered Bill Hendricks 50 grand for exclusive boat launch services. HOA members only. She wants to buy out public access and create a private club. The chess move was brilliant and vicious. Control the only other boat access, effectively strand me on my property. But she'd promised the money would come from HOA emergency funds, which had strict legal requirements and required proper board votes. That evening, I visited Mrs. Victoria, who'd lived here since 1995. Her house smelled like jasmine tea and old photographs. Mrs. Victoria, I need to ask about the early days. How was lake access originally set up? She brightened immediately, pulling out a photo album. Look here, 1995, the first summer. See, there were boat launches all along the shoreline, not just yours and the marina. She handed me a newspaper clipping from 1994. New Lake Community guarantees water access for all residents. The original developer promised lake access to all property owners in perpetuity, Mrs. Victoria continued. That's why we bought here. Back at the county recorder's office, Dolores helped me find the original 1994 Lake Development Covenant. There it was in black and white. Lake access guaranteed to all original property owners in perpetuity with full water rights including boat launching, dock construction, and recreational watercraft operation. But the real bombshell was on page 12. Hendricks Marina operated under a 25-year renewable lease that expired December 31, 2022. The marina lease had expired 2 years ago and was never renewed. What happens when businesses operate on expired leases? I asked. Technically, they're squatting. Property goes into tax default, and the county can auction it. Annual property tax on the $180,000 marina assessment was about $6,000. 2 years of unpaid taxes plus penalties meant roughly $12,000 owed. When's the next tax auction? This Friday morning at 10 a.m. I had more than $12,000 in retirement savings. If I could buy the marina at auction, I'd control the only commercial boat access. Maggie's exclusive HOA plan would crumble instantly. Friday morning arrived crisp and clear. At the courthouse auction room, Commissioner Patricia Wells stepped to the microphone at exactly 10 a.m. First item, Hendricks Marina property, Lot 47B. Assessed value $180,000. Back taxes owed $12,347, including penalties. Do we have any bidders? I raised my hand. Yes, ma'am. Any other bidders? Silence. Going once, going twice. Sold to Mr. Morrison for $12,347. Just like that, I owned a marina. By noon, Derek had escalated to active harassment, showing up while I met with Bill Hendricks about the transition. Sir, this property transfer violates HOA community standards, Derek announced, reading from Maggie's script. The HOA board is prepared to file legal challenges. Son, this man bought this place fair and square from the county, Bill said. Your HOA doesn't have authority over county property sales. That afternoon brought real fireworks. Maggie herself arrived wearing a red blazer, Curtis trailing behind like a reluctant dog. Mr. Morrison, this fraudulent property acquisition will not stand, she declared. You think buying this marina gives you power over the lake? I'll have this sale overturned by week's end. I smiled. Good luck with that, Maggie. The county's pretty happy to have this property back on tax rolls. Saturday morning, Maggie appeared alone wearing designer jeans and cashmere sweater, her version of casual. Jake, can we talk? I think we got off on the wrong foot. Maybe we can find a compromise. What if we drop all dock violations? You keep your boat launch, and we'll revise HOA bylaws to protect your access rights. In exchange, you agree to reasonable marina scheduling for HOA members and general public. The offer seemed reasonable, but I'd learned not to trust this woman. What I didn't know was she was recording our conversation, planning to edit it to make me sound like I was extorting the HOA. But when she played the doctored version at Tuesday's board meeting, Mrs. Victoria immediately recognized the altered audio. Margaret, this recording has been altered. I've heard Jake speak for 15 years, and this isn't how he talks. I taught high school English for 35 years. I know editing when I hear it. Thursday evening brought Maggie's final gambit, an emergency community meeting with theatrical flair. The notice read, Urgent community safety crisis requiring immediate action. I arrived early to find 60-plus people packed into chairs designed for 40. Maggie had arranged the room like a tribunal, positioning herself behind a folding table flanked by Curtis and 2 board members. Ladies and gentlemen, Maggie began. Our community faces unprecedented threat to safety, property values, and our very way of life. Mr. Morrison has engaged in systematic campaign to undermine legitimate governance through intimidation, property manipulation, and extortion. She played her edited recording. The cuts were so obvious several people exchanged glances. Time for my entrance. I stood slowly, pulling out my manila folder. Maggie, that's interesting. But I've got documents that tell a different version. I placed the original 1994 Lake Covenant on her table. This shows lake access belongs to all original property owners in perpetuity. Your HOA never had authority over water rights. Her confident expression began cracking. And this, I continued, laying down election documentation, proves your election was never legally valid. You didn't follow proper notice requirements. Curtis examined the papers, face going pale. But here's my favorite part, I said, spreading out emergency fund documentation. You promised Bill Hendricks $50,000 from HOA emergency funds, money that can only be used for actual emergencies. The room erupted in surprised murmurs. Oh, and about that recording? I pulled out my phone and hit play. The full unedited conversation filled the room, making her version sound like amateur hour. Turns out I was recording too. That's when Commissioner Patricia Wells entered with a sheriff's deputy. Miss Thornfield, we need to discuss your interference with county property auctions and misuse of association funds. The deputy stepped forward with legal papers. Ma'am, you're being served with a cease and desist order regarding harassment of county property owners. This is a conspiracy. Maggie exploded, pointing wildly. He's manipulated all of you. But the audience had turned completely. The queen of the HOA had been dethroned by her own arrogance. By Monday morning, Maggie submitted her resignation via bitter email blaming community conspiracies. Derek quietly found employment 2 towns over. Curtis returned to boring contract law. The whole Thornfield empire crumbled like cards in a windstorm. The Marina transformation exceeded my wildest dreams. I offered Bill Hendricks a profit-sharing deal instead of wages. 30 years in this business, and this is the first time an owner actually cared about the people doing the work, he said. Within 2 weeks, I'd restored free Marina access to all original homeowners, just like the 1994 covenant promised. The morning air filled with sounds I'd missed, children's laughter, boat motors purring, fishing lines splashing. Property values jumped 15% over 6 months thanks to restored access and improved facilities. But my proudest achievement honors Sarah's memory in ways that bring tears to my eyes. The Sarah Morrison Memorial Fishing Program transforms our marina every Saturday morning into childhood wonderland. 25 kids arrive at dawn, ranging from shy 6-year-olds to confident teenagers, all eager to learn from worm threading to boat safety. Rex has become the world's most patient fishing instructor, allowing tiny hands to pet his fur while parents snap photos of first successful casts. There's pure magic watching a nervous 10-year-old catch their first bluegill, their face exploding with joy that makes every adult remember why childhood wonder matters. Mrs. Victoria volunteers as our lake historian, sharing stories about the area's past while children wait for fish to bite. The County Conservation Department partners with us, teaching ecology alongside angling skills. Our new HOA board, properly elected this time, cut violation notices by 70% and established transparent budgeting preventing future abuse. Neighbors actually talk to each other again instead of hiding behind curtains. Summer evenings bring families for fishing competitions, safety classes, and impromptu barbecues on our expanded dock. Conversation and laughter have replaced tension that once suffocated our community like morning fog. I still take Rex out for sunrise fishing, but now we're joined by neighbors who've rediscovered early morning peace. The water reflects not just clouds and sky, but a community that chose cooperation over conflict. Sometimes I talk to Sarah while casting my line, telling her about kids learning to fish or neighbors becoming genuine friends. I know she's proud of how something beautiful grew from ugly conflict. The marina earned recognition from the County Tourism Board, but real success isn't publicity. It's children learning, families connecting, and a community that defeated petty tyranny through solidarity. Your turn. Drop a comment about your worst HOA nightmare below. Hit that subscribe button for more tales of ordinary people beating corrupt systems through persistence, preparation, and community power. Justice tastes better when it's shared.